Hello, and welcome to another episode of AI in the Classroom Daily. This is a podcast helping educators make sense of AI without the hype. I'm Dan Cogan-Drew, co-founder and chief academic officer here at Newsella, and I use AI as a thinking partner in preparing each of these episodes because I think the best way to talk honestly about AI in education is to work with it openly. So earlier this week, we talked about something important, the difference between assignment design and transfer goals. We looked at two studies that seem to contradict each other, one showing AI erodes learning, one showing AI actually helps. And what they both revealed was this, that the assignments that fell apart under AI were the ones without a clear transfer goal. They were measuring task completion, not whether students could actually do something that mattered. The assignments that held up were the ones designed backward from a real transfer goal, what students should actually be able to do with this knowledge in contexts that differ from the original format. So today, I want to show you what happens when that principle gets inverted at a system level. The thing is, if classroom assignments aren't measuring transfer, then tutoring systems almost certainly aren't either. And once you see why, you'll understand a lot about what's happening with AI tutors right now. So there's a pattern in education technology that keeps repeating, and once you see it, it's pretty hard to unsee. In the early 2000s, brain training companies like Lumosity, Brain HQ made a promise: spend a few minutes a day on memory and logic games, and your cognition will get stronger overall. Your kids will do better in school, you'll be sharper at work, and so on. After about a decade, researchers started asking a simple question: does it actually work? And what they found was sort of, but only in a very specific way. People got better at brain training games, measurably better. But the improvement almost never transferred to anything else. The learning was trapped in the game itself. A 2016 meta-analysis of 87 brain training studies showed the pattern very clearly. When researchers measured performance on tasks that looked a lot like the training, people showed real gains. But the further they moved away from the training environment, the faster those gains disappeared. By the time they measured what they were calling far transfer, applying what you learned to genuinely different situations, the benefits had essentially vanished. The brain training industry didn't collapse because the technology didn't work. It collapsed because the technology worked exactly as designed. It made people better at the one thing it was optimizing for, but nothing more. So why I'm bringing this up is that a researcher named Jared Cooney-Horvath recently published a piece asking whether we're seeing the same pattern with AI tutors. The evidence that he's looking at is pretty hard to ignore. AI tutoring systems have genuinely strong effect sizes, about plus 52 on the standard scale, which is actually above the threshold where educators typically say this matters. Students using these systems do improve, but the question Horvath was asking is, improve at what? So he looked at the data. PISA, the Program for International Student Assessment, tracked this across multiple years. They asked students how often they used digital tutoring for practice and drilling, then measured their performance on reading and math. The result was that greater use of digital tutoring was associated with lower performance on the assessment. TIMSS, Trends in International Mathematics and Science study, did something similar, same question about digital games and learning games, and the same result. Even NAEP data, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, also showed this. Students using reading tutoring games as their primary mode of instruction scored lowest. Now, we need to be careful that this is not causal. This is a correlation. And before you say that this proves AI tutors are bad, we have to hold on because something more important is happening here. The students using these tutoring systems did get better at something. They got better at the thing the tutoring system was designed to teach. And the problem is that the thing it was designed to teach was the format and structure of that tutoring system, because that's what's easiest to measure and that's what the assessment system rewards. So if you think about it from the tutor's perspective, as a system, you have one job: improve performance on this measurable outcome. The easiest path is going to be to optimize for tasks that look exactly like the assessment. You get students really good at that specific format, you teach to the test. The tutoring isn't irrational, it's perfectly rational. It's doing exactly what it's incentivized to do. So where the connection that we were making earlier this week becomes critical is when we were talking about the difference between task completion and transfer. The tutoring system is optimizing for task completion. It's brilliant at exactly what the author of that study, Rashmanchian, showed, which is getting students faster at the type of problem that they've practiced. But it's not measuring what actually matters, that is, whether students can apply that thinking in new contexts. So where it gets interesting is that something else is happening right now at the same time. A few months ago, Ed Week Market Brief surveyed district leaders, principals, and teachers about what they actually want from assessment. And the picture that they painted was pretty clear that they're very frustrated. More than a third say current assessments don't meet their needs very well. 84% say they're interested in new or different approaches to assessment. So what do they want to measure that they can't measure now? Critical thinking, 58%. Areas where students need more help, foundational skills, creativity, students' actual reasoning process. These are the kinds of picture of a graduate goals that districts and schools have set for themselves. The things that teachers have always known matter, but have never been easy to put to a standardized test. One teacher responding to the survey said, "We need to spend less time on mandated tests and let teachers use tests they know will help the teacher know what each student needs next." That is the definition of a formative assessment. And another said, "We need more performance task assessments rather than multiple choice." Now, these aren't abstract wishes. These are concrete observations about what's missing. So where the technical piece comes in is with a researcher named Eric Tucker, who published a piece recently called "We've Been Judging Symphony Rehearsals by the Last Note." The title alone tells you something. For decades, assessments have only looked at the final answer. But math, that is to say real math, isn't just about the final answer. It's about the moves that one makes to get there. The moment that a student tries a different representation because the first one wasn't working, the actual struggle with the underlying concepts. The problem is always, how do you capture that at scale? How do you measure reasoning, not just task completion? Tucker makes the case that multimodal AI has the potential to change this, not by some theoretical future capability, but right now. AI can capture hand-drawn diagrams. It can process spoken explanations in noisy classrooms. It can detect the precise moment a student transitions from one strategy to another. And it can measure what the standards for mathematical practice actually describe, the thinking moves that matter. This is what backwards design actually looks like at assessment scale. It measures what students can do, not just whether they can solve this particular problem type, but whether they can figure out what operation applies to this situation, even when they don't recognize the exact problem type. Whether they can construct an argument tailored to a specific audience, whether they can make decisions about which feedback matters. As Tucker puts it in his piece, the goal is to make AI function as a teacher's noticing engine, not a classroom judge. Surface actionable alerts about actual reasoning, not task completion. So let's step back and connect these three pieces together. The AI tutor right now is optimizing for what Cooney calls near transfer, performance on assessments that look like the tutoring environment. It's doing that because that's what the assessment ecosystem rewards. It's measuring task completion, not transfer. Educators are saying they want something different. They want to measure critical thinking, transfer, reasoning, the actual moves, not just the answer. 84% of leaders say they're actively interested in making that change. The technical capability to measure those things at scale exists today. Multimodal AI can capture what we've never been able to scale before, which means that something else actually may become possible. If assessment changes, if what we're actually measuring is genuine transfer and reasoning instead of task completion and format recognition, then the incentive structure for the AI tutor changes too. Suddenly, the tutor isn't optimizing to get kids good at a specific test format. It's optimizing to develop flexible, transferable thinking. It's learning to notice the struggle, to reward strategy shifts, and measure what actually matters. In this logic, it's not the tutor that has to change first. It's the measurement system. And then everything downstream changes with it. This is why the work around assessment innovation matters so much. It's about changing the signal you're giving your tools about what success looks like. Right now, the signal that the tutoring system is getting says basically make students better at this specific thing. We've had a lot to say and a lot to poke holes in with the use of AI tutors, but what this paradigm is showing us is that the greater opportunity may be upstream from the tutor. And if we change the orientation of the tutor, we may actually be getting better results. The tutor does not replace the necessary teacher-student relationship, but in its current positioning, based on the existing assessment regime, the AI tutor is quite likely underperforming against its potential. We'd love your thoughts. How are you thinking about transfer goals? And what role, if any, do you think that AI tutors, as they currently exist, can help support enabling students to reach those transfer goals? As always, interested in your thoughts, please share. We read everything that you write. Thanks for listening to AI in the Classroom Daily, and stay tuned tomorrow for This Week in AI News and Research.